What's up, baby?
What it do?
Hey,
How we
welcome,
doing?
homie. How you doing, brother? How you doing?
Living the dream, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, happy Sunday, homie. Welcome on.
Happy Sunday, fam. It's
How's
good
your
to be
weekend
here.
been?
It's been good, man. It's been good. We had a good stream yesterday. We actually just hit one of my friends just followed me today, so that's the big 100 today.
Big
So that's really
100,
cool.
amazing, bro.
Big
It's only up
100.
from there, bro. The first
Yeah, brother.
100, the first little
Yeah.
milestone, it just keeps skyrocketing after that, bro. You gonna do it. You gonna
Absolutely.
kill it.
Absolutely, man. Our crew has been really fun to get behind me and just it's been a lot of fun.
Hell yeah, bro. And
I'm
more so
excited.
than just the numbers, I hope you find like really quality dope viewers that you like have a good time talking to, bro. Like that quality over quantity is so real.
Absolutely. The connections that I've made, like there's not everybody, but there are a select few people who like if I stopped streaming tomorrow, I would still be cool with them.
That's fire.
So that's wonderful.
That's the
really
best
cool.
part of it, bro. That's
Yeah, man.
the good, the positives of the internet, bro.
Absolutely. How's NY, brother?
It's good, man. It's been a little chilly, but I was blessed enough yesterday with good weather where I was able to go to one of my coworkers organized a protest for Ukraine. He's originally from Russia. He migrated here, I believe it was like 6-7 years ago. So he organized that, and I was blessed enough to go and like film parts of it and stuff. Film some interviews with people that were like from Ukraine and stuff. So it was really cool, man. I just gotta get it translated, bro, because I'm not gonna lie, man, that shit is so foreign to me, bro. I'm like, I don't understand fucking shit. Like, I was just holding the camera and they were doing the questions in Russian. I was like, yo, what the fuck is going on right now?
That's a hard language, brother.
Bro,
That's a hard
tough,
language.
man.
Yeah.
It's a whole other alphabet, bro.
Yeah. Right? Like how like at least when you're learning like English, Spanish, like the French even, it's just kind of like, okay, yeah, you got the same 26, right? You got
Yeah,
the same
exactly.
26, but like a completely different dude. Yeah.
A whole nother
yeah.
yo, that Mandarin, hard as fuck. Another one is hard as fuck. Like,
Same.
that's
Yep.
beyond Duolingo there, bro. Like, I don't
Yep.
think you're gonna learn that shit on
That's
Duolingo.
just, like that's not even. I mean, I don't want to like. That's characters. I feel like that's like if I'm if I'm understanding right, like even certain characters in Mandarin can
Mhm.
have different meanings depending
Yeah.
on what
Mhm.
like how it's with, like what characters it's with, and like how you're speaking it. So that's that even
Wow,
takes it to
bro.
a different level.
Such a different level, bro.
Yeah,
It's
man.
crazy, man. But
Yeah,
I
man.
can thank wait, Sengi, you understand Russian or Mandarin? Wow. What the fuck? Oh, can you hear this? Oh, no, never mind. He was replying to something else. I was like, oh shit, oh my god, I had no idea you just understood fucking Mandarin
The man
or
of
Russian.
many talents.
Yeah, and that's such a hidden one. Like, yo, I'm just gonna purposely not tell anyone that I'm fluent in this other language. Yo, what's up, Flazzy? Welcome in, homie. God bless the Trap Brothers. Hey, welcome in. I speak street and English. That's all you need, baby. That's all you need.
We got all the homies in.
All
We got
the homies in
Queen,
here.
Sengi, yeah, the whole crew.
And
Wonderful.
and it's a good ass concept, man. When I hit you up, I was like, yo, what do you want to talk about, man? Because we've been talking about doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And we've been in each other's streams and stuff, so different topics come up and about every now and then. But we went with identity. So what made you choose identity as the concept that you really wanted to talk about?
Well, because like I've been thinking about like it was genuinely something that's kind of like been floating around my mind like a lot recently, and it's kind of a big thing in like mainstream mainstream media,
Mhm.
social media, all of this, like what you identify as, like
Uh-huh.
what like it's literally like one of the first things that it seems to be like what's the word, like polite to ask somebody is
Mhm.
certain, like what do you identify as. And I'm just kind of like, man, like I is that really the direction we want to go, right? Like is that really like, because all these things matter, right? Like you can
Mhm.
be, like you I don't know, like all of these things matter to you, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, like are we when we try to in certain areas like make that matter to other people,
Mhm.
I wonder where we're actually getting it. Are we actually like, is this actually helping us validate ourselves, like
Mhm.
in that identity and who we are and our stories, or like are we looking for outside, validation
Yeah.
even more than maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago,
Mhm.
when we're really trying to get away from that? We're really trying to strengthen individuals and make people more comfortable in their own skin. That's the whole point. But
Yep.
like when we are and again, I will call you whatever you ask me to call you. Like
Mhm.
it's not but when somebody messes that up, or maybe your pronouns or what you want to be called now or whatever, like I feel as if nowadays it can sometimes be interpreted as an attack on our own self.
Mhm.
And realistically, like they might just not know or be privy to how you're feeling or how you see the world, or that kind of thing. And
For
so
sure.
you might just need to talk about it. You
Yeah.
might just need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And not take that as like an attack to your own
Mhm.
persona, your own, identity.
Identity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Yo, One Hero Gaming, welcome in. What's up, yo? What's up? What's going on? We got Grand Pianoman on tonight to talk all about identity. Welcome in, welcome in. So yeah, I 100% agree. I do think though that in regards to like people getting like real defensive about like maybe like people misgendering them, I think like I've been blessed. So this is all anecdotal, right? This is all my experience. I've been blessed with like a community that's been very diverse and identifies in different ways. Some are non-binary. I believe I might have had some like trans representation in the chat. I'm not sure. Like that's honestly not just like something that I go and ask. But I've had the opportunity to speak to a lot of different people of different backgrounds, and the one thing is like I'm not perfect, you know what I'm saying? So like I've fucked it up plenty of times where like I've misgendered somebody by accident on like what they want to identify as, like maybe their pronouns are something different than like what my initial response is, you know what I'm saying? And I've messed it up before, but I always quickly correct it. And like in my experience, I've never had someone just be like get real defensive about it. I think that comes when like because it's all about intention, right? Like so like if I fuck it up, I'm just talking to like as many people as I can in chat. I'm trying to respond to as much as I can. I'm doing stuff in the background. You know how it is. It's like a whole bunch of stuff. So for me to like accidentally misgender somebody, it's a slip of tongue. And then if I correct it right away, it's like, all right, I didn't mean that. I just fucked it up. Like there's just a lot of going on right now. I think when it gets like when people get defensive about it, it's when like you're doing it with intention, right? Like you're doing it because you know they don't want that. And like you said, right? You said I'll call you whatever it is you want. I think that a lot of people do think that way, but then there's always like the subsect of people that don't think like that, where like they're just like, I don't give a fuck, like I don't even care if this makes you comfortable, I'm not gonna do that just because like whatever reason, I'm just not gonna do it. And like that's when people get real defensive, because it's like, yo, all I'm asking you is like this small tiny thing is like just calm, like just don't do this on purpose. And some people like to troll, like we've seen trolls on the internet and shit. And like I think it's always comes down to like intention, right? Like I think like if you fuck it up and you like make clear like, hey, I just fucked this up, my bad, like I'm gonna try my best in the future, because we're all learning, this is all relatively new. And like a lot of people on here have like, everybody has lives, so like not everybody has enough time to dedicate to like all the research and all like the news and everything that comes with it, because it's all ever changing. So like I always think that it comes down to like intention of what you're trying to do.
Absolutely. And you're probably right. And a lot of the really aggressive, I just wanted to shout out Persona. He just dropped some knowledge in chat just
Yeah.
like a lot of like, I feel like a lot of the really angriness, the really at each other's throats about these kind of things do come from social media.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have to like, unfortunately people feel like they have to or they can be a certain way on social media, whether it is overly defensive of a certain subset of people to the point where it's it's unproductive,
Mhm.
or the opposite, where we have the trolls, where it's just kind of like, listen, I think like this for my own self,
Mhm.
and like in my daily life it's not productive for me to push that on people,
Mhm.
but on social media I can.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So there is a little bit of that, but especially through the pandemic, like, social media and real life have merged to an extent that we haven't seen before.
Mhm.
To where and that kind of ties into our like, identity is everything, right? Like, that kind of ties into our subject, like taking the things that are said in social media and people's personas in social media and posts in social media, and then like translating that to real life, right? Like that, like, that's who that person is. Like, they made a post about, they made a pro Russia post, so now I can't even be friends with them,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
though they might legitimately be they might see a different side of this whole conflict,
Mhm.
that because of their ties to Russia or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Again, like, hate is hate, and that should be snuffed out wherever it's at, right? Like, but I think
Wait,
when
but do you think that there's nuance to hate though? Like, cuz what if someone's like, "Bro, I hate Hitler." Like they genuinely have a hate for somebody that like cuz you just said,
sure,
right? People might have their own reasons. I always think
sure,
that there's nuance to hate, man. Like,
sure. Well, there's no
it's hard to not
you're
hate. We're
right.
humans.
Yeah, you're right. And there's no well, that's a big part of this whole discussion, right? There's nuance to everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't like, you might like, for example, somebody might be like, let's one thing okay, I'm sorry. I had a thought earlier and I don't want to let it go.
No, of course. Take your time, bro.
So a big part of, like, so my background is, my dad is black and my mom is
Mhm.
I guess you would cut, she's not from Spanish speaking, she's her family's from Mexico, so I guess that would be Latino, right?
She's from Mexico, you said?
Yeah, her family is.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah. That I remember you talking about that with somebody,
She's
like
Hispanic and
Hispanic.
Latina,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If
Um,
mhm.
yeah. So as a black man, like, we're designed, like, there's a particular word that starts with an N that has a very specific place in our history,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, of course.
And I've never quite understood that. I've always thought that, why does our identity, again, have to be like, when somebody who's not us, who doesn't have the melanin to say this word, says this, now we have to fight somebody,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
now we have to get and it's predictable, right? Because
Mhm.
at this point, like, people who use that word in a derogatory fashion, what you're gonna get,
Yeah.
right? So I wonder if, like, if we were to let go of that part of our identity, how much power would we have, right? Like, how much more power would we have if we are not, like, predictably aggressive about an utterance of a word,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
I've never, like, again, I've never been sensitive to that, because at the end of the day, like, if you wrong me,
Mhm.
like, if you're wronged by me, like we got a problem. It doesn't matter like why. So like
Yeah.
so like bringing that full circle, like I think race is a big one, that, like, especially in the United States, because we have such a history with
Yeah.
things that's very, very recent. I think that's part of our identity that we tend to be very sensitive
Of
towards.
course. Yeah, yeah.
And we kind of started talking about pronouns or whatever, but a bigger one even right now is probably race, or
Yeah.
equally as important. And I wonder, why, because, like, I started playing piano when I was 7.
Mhm.
Like I was in band, choir, music theater, all the way up,
Hey.
you know what I mean,
That's
like
fire, bro.
I am Piano Man. But if you're talking about stereotypical, black Hispanic man, like, is that the path that folks tend to that you would
associate
assume
with it.
associate with it, you know, not so much. But why? But why? You know what I mean? Like I represent that. Like I am that. That is my history. That is my culture. But like I'm just me, and I go about things the way I want to do it. So like you know, growing up, I was in a small rural town, so it wasn't that bad. But still, like that, I wasn't. You know, you brought up like I'm like you're not white enough for white people, and you're not Mexican enough for Mexican people. It's
or
just
yeah,
kinda,
just
it's
Latino,
like, you know, or Latino, and it's just kind of like that's kind of what it was for me. It was just kind of like, yo, I know that I'm not like all my white friends, they know, right? They know that I'm not that, but like then it's just kind of like my minority friends are just kind of like, I mean, you're kind of not with us either, you know, which is weird. So like that kind of early on made me assume like, no, like I'm just me, you know, it doesn't matter, you know, what I'm involved in, where I go with that. Like I'm just me, and people are going to gravitate to that if they fuck with me, you know, like not because I had the same complexion or I grew up on the same street or whatever. It's just I'm just me, you know. My identity is Pianoman, you know. My is Daryl, you know, like that's who I am, you know. I'm not a black man, I'm not a Latino man, I'm not you know, like
you're you.
like, I'm just me, you know. So like full circle, I'm rambling again. Please stop.
Nah, this is what I love, bro. This is a stream of consciousness. This is what we're here for.
But like, I guess that kind of makes me very, I guess, sensitive in an opposite way with what's kind of going on now, because like, I've adopted almost 30 years of just kind of being me and not really fitting into a mold. And I find power in that, and it's scary. And that's what I want to like. That's what I want to say to people, is just kind of like, yo, like it's terrifying to be one of 8 billion. Like you're like every single person is one of 8 billion, right? Like, and that's why we try to gravitate to these groups, right? Because it's terrifying to just stand alone and be like, no, like there's nobody who's exactly like me. There's nobody who I'm going to fit exactly into their mold for. And that's terrifying, but it's powerful too. Because you will always, in every one of your groups that you're in, you'll always bring a unique perspective, because you're so confident in your 1 in 8 billionness that like, hey, like, you know, we kind of fit in here enough to hang out and do this things, but I also need to get this other group of friends to kind of, you know, nurture this other side of me and whatnot. So like, you know, I think that's really an important concept for people, especially like younger people growing up here, you know, like 10, 11-year-olds, you know, like what do you identify as, what is your you know, all this kind of stuff. It's just kind of like, no, can they just, what's your name, kid? You know, what's your name? Like, what do you like to do? Like, what are some things that excite you about the world? You know, that's what I want to know. Like, don't start, you know, I don't, you know, your pronouns are your pronouns, or your orientation is your orientation, your name is your name, and I'll learn all of that, and I will respect all of that. But like, but like when I meet you, like I want to know you. Like those are just a list of things. Like that doesn't tell me like who you are. And I think it's troubling that so many people like, who are you? Well, let me list off all of these things that I identify as. That doesn't tell me who you are.
Beautiful, brother. I love that shit. And never feel like you rambling, man. That's stream of consciousness. Our thoughts are not just supposed to be just like cut up like that. Like you're supposed to just be flowing, man. All right, there's a bunch of stuff, because a lot of stuff I agree with that, and I want to continue on that. Let me just go back and read some of these comments, because there was some really good stuff in here. Persona, I am much more than Hispanic or light-skinned or a man or straight, etc. I am human. I have emotions and feelings that are beyond labels, experiences that are beyond generalizations and are my own. There you go. Nella, welcome in. What's up, Nella? We are right now, we getting into it. This is fucking, Nella, this is good. Beautiful. If a friend gives you a nickname in general that you do not agree with, that person should express their self for better understanding to be able to grow together. Yeah, I do think that there's like, you know, a certain responsibility for someone to be able to communicate like, hey, I don't like this. can you please do this for this reason? You know what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to just like the initial instinct of being like, I'm fucking defensive and I'm mad. This person said something wrong and they must be attacking me. Like, I think it's on everyone to just try and communicate better and just be like, look, I don't like this. Is it cool, like, if you just don't do this? And I think you'll learn that a lot of most people will be like, oh, all right, I didn't know. I'm sorry about that. I'll try my best. And if I mess up, just know that it's not with any bad intention, like I was saying earlier. You know, you'll find the subsect of people that are like, nah, I don't give a fuck. And just don't talk to them. Like, that's it. You know, there's billions of people in this world. You just don't have to talk to everybody. Let me see. Let me see what else we got in here. I saw some gems. I had this convo with someone today. We should never silence the voice of racists, etc., because that is the only way we'll be able to single them out. Let people say whatever they want and let them deal with the consequences of their actions. Hey, hell yeah, bro. But then the thing is that sometimes the consequence of the action, like you say, right, is people not wanting to talk to them anymore. So they're just like, I don't want to talk to these people, and then if you get enough people that are like, yo, I don't want this person to talk anymore, like, I don't know. It's at the end of the day, like, I think we're about to get into like a lot of like the big tech and like the Twitter censoring and stuff. But man, these companies just want money. So like whatever is financially incentive for them to make more money, if they sense that like, hey, a majority of this population and our demographic that we serve has these beliefs, and we allow this type of belief on here, like they just care about the money. Like I really don't think that these corporations are like in any way like, I don't think they're doing it ideologically. Like it's not ideologically driven, other than like we just want to make money. We literally want to serve as many people as possible, have as many consumers as possible, and if that means removing a couple of people so that this bigger group of people does not leave my platform, we will do that. Like it's just about money for them. I don't think it's anything politically driven or anything like that.
Freedom of speech is important, though. Freedom of speech is very important. For that reason.
It is, but I do think we need to differentiate. Like, you know, when we talk about freedom of speech, are we talking about the government coming and locking you up for protesting, like we're seeing in a lot of parts of the world, or are we talking about Twitter deciding, hey, we don't want you on here, and that's it? Like, I don't know what do you do at that point? You need a terms of service, like, because I don't want a platform with 0 terms of service and some dude could just spam dick pics at me all day and that's it.
Yeah, that's a tough. That's a tough like balance to have, right? Like, I think most of us can agree that we don't want the government like coming in and being like, oh, you can't say that. Like, here's some actual like jail time or fines or things like that for you speaking what we assume is what you actually think and feel. But in terms of like making people safe in an actual, like, on a platform, right, like Twitter or Facebook or whatever, I think that's more of a conversation to be had. I personally lean more to the side of like, let it be had, because like you said, like, if you're just preaching hate and talking hate and like things like this, like, you're not gonna grow, you're not gonna connect with a lot of people, you know. Like I even kind of bleed that into, you know, again, less so, but like even kind of business practices. Like, I think the majority of people don't want to either support people who do this or run a business that exiles a whole subset of the population. Like, that's just not good for business. So to an extent, you do kind of want to just let that run its course and like let them feel the ramifications of their hate and bigotry and ignorance, right?
Yeah, man, it's tough, man. It's real fucking tough. There are a lot of times where I'm like, damn, like, you know, they probably didn't, like, by censoring them, they only added fuel to the fire and they only gave more ammunition for them to be like, look, they don't want to hear what I have to say. When in reality, you can combat... What's that?
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and when in reality, you can just combat a lot of the shit that they say with better arguments, because their arguments are so fucking shitty. Like, that happens a lot, too. But then there are times where I'm just like, all right, you know... Like, we are seeing the realities of little communities and pockets of demographics and communities online that are uniting, and they may not seem like they're big, but they're definitely able to like just keep growing and like, you know, I'm trying to think of like a good example, like cults, man. Like any cult, right, that grows online, it's hard to be like, when do we put a stop to this? Because it might start off small, but if you have a little fucking group of just hate, it will continue to breed, man. And like, propaganda is propaganda. That shit is tough to combat. Like, it is extreme. People are good at influencing people, man. Just ask any like over 40-year-old that's on WhatsApp or Facebook and looks at memes all day. Like, go check out any family member that's like above the age 40. Like, they have fell for misinformation and for dumbass memes online. Like, propaganda is hard, bro. It's been hard like our entire humanity, and now they've just been able to, like, with memes, it's like a mass reach. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can reach mass amounts of people, whereas back in the day you had to go around handing out fucking flyers, and like that's how you got your propaganda out, or you would get it on the TV or the radio. But like with memes, bro, like that shit is crazy. And like it's tough, man. And I used to watch Joe Rogan a lot. I don't watch him only for the fact that he's on Spotify, so it's just a little bit harder to like get to it. Like, but when he was on YouTube, I was like, yo, this is my shit. Like, you know, he had good people on there. He had Bernie. He had a couple people that I really enjoyed. Like Kevin Hart had a good ass interview on there. The thing is, like, he's the Fear Factor dude, man. He's the Fear Factor dude. Sometimes I think he's just like, he can't do enough research, bro. Like, if you have an interview every single day and you have people coming on that like they dedicate all their time to just researching like that one topic, it's extremely hard to like research every single day. So sometimes he just lets people go on there and they just talk. They say whatever they want with no pushback. And you know, I do believe in responsible platforming. I always think that's like a good thing. Fair. Is what's it called? You should be able to research what you're gonna have on. If you're gonna have them on, at least be able to know like the counter arguments and know every side of it. Like, I do believe that you should bring people on because you can easily combat a lot of dumbass arguments, but like, you got to be responsible with it. Don't let somebody just come on there and turn you into a fucking hour-long advertisement for their beliefs without you saying shit.
You know, he has a hard job, and it's exploded. You know, and especially in the pandemic times, you know, like his viewership has gotten to a point where I don't know. We don't have to go on Joe Rogan, but he's a really good example of like the conversation to be had, right? Like, he's a really good example of just like, at what point do we put the responsibility on individuals, right? Again, like, at what point do we put the responsibility on you as an individual? Like, for me, I can listen to Joe Rogan and I can agree or disagree. And like, if there's something I don't know, like, I probably have my phone in my hand, right? Like, or I'm sitting by a computer or whatever the case may be. So it's just like, I'm curious about that, and then I go down a rabbit hole, right? I think that's the healthy way to take in like Joe Rogan, especially if he has one of these guests that have very fringe beliefs. You know, that, and those are the ones that people are really upset about, right? Is like these people have these very like you know, like unique beliefs that probably more than likely a great deal of people disagree with. But at the end of the day, like, it shouldn't be inherently dangerous or unhealthy to put another idea in the zeitgeist, right? Because at the end of the day, like, it's up to society, us, like individuals, right, to think, all right, let me hear this out. Let me put this with what I believe and what I think, and where I have questions, I can get on my phone, I can get on the computer, I can get wherever, and I can take what I just got there, little or a lot, and add it to mine, and that becomes my improved perspective because of my knowledge, you know.
Bro, if only people thought like that, though. Like, the reality is, though, at least my reality is, I know more people that just read headlines and just go off of reactionary commentary. Like, all they need to see is one headline that's like, like big bold letters like gas prices this, the end of it, like, you know, they get off to that shit, man. And like I've seen a couple people that I graduated high school with, they'll share shit and I'm just like, yo, what the fuck? Like I'll look into it. Takes like you said, like just 5-10 minutes of your own research to just figure out like, okay, this is obviously not correct. But the problem is that like most people are online and it's like just life moves so fast that like they really just do read headlines and they get real emotional. Yeah, it is a lot of emotional manipulation, Persona. Like, and you know, we've been focusing on mainstream media a lot, like obviously because mainstream media does fuck up a lot of shit, but like it cannot be understated how many YouTubers, how many media figures in new media also push fucking so much misinformation and also want to emotionally manipulate people. Like, you know, we focus on mainstream media because they have a shit ton of power, a shit ton of money, a shit ton of influence in over our society, but like it cannot be understated how many YouTubers out there are so full of shit and only doing this for a monetary incentive. Like, they know if they feed a certain demographic and audience, like, hey, this is what you want to hear, right? This is what you want to hear. They'll come back. They'll come back with clicks. They'll come back with subs. They'll come back with super chats. They'll come back with whatever it is that is monetarily beneficial to them in order for them to just keep feeding them that shit. So, like, yeah, mainstream media definitely does it, but, like, it's not like new media doesn't do it either. That's the problem. Like, we just need, I think, overall media education in society. Like, we really just need to educate people on how to fucking dissect media.
Yeah. Well, at some point, we have to hold ourselves accountable, right? Like at some point that's what I was talking about earlier, like where like it's easy to reach for groups to be a part of because it's so hard to be that 1 in 8 billion. Yeah. Right, and be you and think for you. Yeah. So like at some point, like we have to look within society. We can't look at government. We can't look at these corporations. We can't censor this, make sure I don't see that, make sure this, that, and the other. Like at some point, we have to look at ourselves and our society and be like, hey, like, can we adapt here? Mm-hmm. Can we adapt here? Like again, I would never say that people should have an excuse to hate or purposefully make somebody else feel inferior or whatever. That's mm-hmm. I would never advocate for that. Mm-hmm. But at some point we have to understand the strength as an individual to be able to take that mm-hmm. and say, oh, it doesn't affect who I am. I know who I am, or at least I know who I'm working to become. So like you saying this, believing this, whatever, has nothing to do with who I am as an mm-hmm. individual. Yeah. You know, so like at some point we have to make that mainstream and mm-hmm. just kind of the norm for where our minds think, you know, and I think a lot of that stuff will kind of fall into place if we take that.
A couple questions that'll continue on this conversation because I like where this is going. Sure. How much of it do you think, because like humans, you know, a lot of it is important to be a strong individual. I think strong individuals making up a collective is very important. But like humans are strongest when we are in groups. Like that is just by nature, right? Like if you throw one single human out into nature, into the wild, they most likely will die. But what we have that other animals don't have is the ability to communicate, the ability to collaborate, the ability to share ideas and construct things together, right? That's why you would see small villages that stayed together and then they designated roles to different people because they said as a collective, we are stronger and we will survive. There's more likely of a chance that we will survive, but each person has their own roles and they do different things that contribute to the good of our collective, right? So like, you know, humans by themselves, I think, are pretty shitty and pretty weak if you look at us just like completely by yourself. But then when you have, because even like it's hard to find like a one-man team for everything. You usually start off like that but the only way to scale is to then grow, have people that you think are similar minded to you or that add to your ultimate goal. People that have skills that you may not have that contribute to the big goal that you envision. So like it's the same thing for companies. You only see companies scale up. It's not like they just stay by themselves like one entrepreneur. That you always need other people to help you with stuff. So how much of it is like in the individual interest to like get informed and to just have good media dissection skills, and then how much of it is like, as a society, this would really benefit all of us. Like, so why not have that instilled in schools and like have that be taught at like a more collective level, because it would only benefit society for people to be able to dissect and understand media more. So like, it is like a thing where it's like, yo, you should be able to do your own research, you should be able to learn this, but like, we also shouldn't, maybe we should teach this in school so people aren't just like by themselves like learning how to, what YouTube videos do I like teach how to dissect media, which it gets hard because then like, there's always going to be biases for everything. But like, how much of it do you think like should be on an individual responsibility, and then how much of it like as a society should we care about this?
Well, we can do a whole nother episode about the shit that should be taught in schools and isn't taught in schools.
Yeah.
Okay? So like if you want to say that there should be more practical things taught, for the first 18 years of your life, like I probably wouldn't disagree with a single one of them.
Wait, hold on. I just want to respond real quick before because I know this is going to keep moving. Persona, what do you mean history barely remembers those collectives? Like, history, when you think about the Romans, that's a collective, right? When you think of the Romans or the Greek, the Vikings, those are all collectives. So like, yeah, we do remember the individuals because those make great stories, right? Like the great hero stories or the great villain stories, like the one individuals. But we definitely remember collectives, and we definitely remember the achievements that like the Mayans made, the achievements that the Egyptians made. Like, those are all collectives, and we definitely remember all of those in history. But yeah, continue. Persona, I love that you're dropping in from. We should have brought you on. We're gonna have a panel. We're definitely gonna have a panel. Cool. You, Grand Pianoman, Flazy, all great ass thinkers. I love you all. But yeah, where were we? We were talking about. So yeah, like school versus like how much of it individual.
Yeah. So you talk about so collectives, right? So yeah, if you like school, there's a ton of more practical things that we need to like I still don't use geometry. I still don't use
SOHCAHTOA, baby.
Yeah, SOHCAHTOA. Sophomore year geometry. I don't know what the fuck that was, man. So in terms of individuals, like, so it's like a puzzle, right? Every piece is completely different. Like, 0 pieces are exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. But we all know our place. We all know the spot that we fit in, and that's our perfect spot. That's the perfect place where we fit into the beautiful like art piece that is this puzzle that we're putting together. So if one of those pieces is rugged, right? It's not so smooth. It's not so whatever. Like, the whole thing gets fucked up. And I think like that's where my vision is. If every single individual, right, was confident, and that doesn't mean that they can't be part of the entire collective, but the collective isn't determined by what they do and who they are, right? Like the collective is you playing your own, being so secure in who you are, what you think, what you bring to the table, that when you come to the collective, like, everybody's just kind of like, oh shit, like, this is where they fit in, and there's no question to that. Like, there's no like they know, so we gotta know. You know, like, so yeah. I think I would love to see like both. Like I think there's a place for both. I think if you just start teaching like some of these things, like identity things and all this kind of stuff, like, I know a big conversation piece is CRT, which we can talk about that too if you want. But like, if you really start like putting some of these things in schools, like, you're going to get so far. You're going to change society in a way that more than likely will be productive, right? And if you don't, and then rely on individuals to bring themselves up and become stronger within their own understanding of who they are, like you're going to probably move it forward, arguably more, arguably less, right? If you do a little bit of both, right, you hold people accountable for understanding who they are and not letting things that truly in the reality of the world don't matter affect them and put dents in the armor of their understanding of who they are. If you hold people accountable to that at the same time as you're giving people the information on different demographics and history and things like that, I think we take what we can get doing one or the other and multiply that tenfold. You know what I'm saying? And like for me, I talk about like the one side a lot, because the more individual I've always been very like, I've always said for a long time, like I don't hold anybody else more accountable than I hold myself, right? So like individual accountability has always been a huge thing for me. So when I like talk about these things, like that's my emphasis, is like I see a lot of benefit and strength to multiplying every particular individual's like individual responsibility and that sort of thing. However, like so that kind of makes me a little bit, I guess, not blind, but I guess I kind of downplay the more like, hey, we shouldn't let people say this, or we shouldn't let people say this, or we should teach people like why this person is having a harder time than you because of, you know, certain historical things. Like, like I kind of tend to on my, you know, something that I need to work on, admittedly, but that's where I kind of tend to downplay that, is because I'm just like, listen, like if that person like didn't see all these things, if that person wasn't told from the time that they were 5 years old that they were different and that they were starting behind, or that people aren't going to like you, or people are like, if you weren't taught all of that stuff from that beginning and you just were taught like, hey, be you, people are going to like it, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you, or that like or there's anything wrong with them. They just you just don't have to be a part of each other's lives, and that's okay. You'll both probably be okay. You know, again, let's not hate each other. Like obviously don't get in anybody's way of achieving their own goals, and things that prevent that, I'm all for. But at the end of the day, like calling, you know, going back to the N-word, like I've been called that a few times, you know, and it's never been like, oh, I gotta fight this person. It's always been like, wow, like you're really mad. Like you're real mad, bro. You mad.
You got nothing else to go to. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like, yo, you couldn't think of anything else. That's all you had.
Yeah, as a kid, man. As a kid, I've always been like, yo, I'm gonna give you a dozen things to dislike me for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna give you a ton of things that you can nitpick and say, oh, I don't like this person. Like, you know, and some of those things actually do matter. And some of those things, it's like, you know what, I could actually work on that. But like race, and you know, I'm a short guy, like height, like things that I can't control that don't make me who I am. Like I don't need like why do I care that you don't like me because of my skin color or my ethnic background? Like I don't need to give you that energy, because it's so surface level and it really doesn't matter. And you hating me because of that doesn't really affect who I am and what I'm about.
And you don't need that validation from them.
What's that?
And
you don't need that validation.
You don't need that validation. You what's it called, are at like a maturity and a level of your life where you could think like that, right? Like, because I remember in high school and stuff, like, so a lot of the things that people
felt like that. I'm sorry, Zave. I felt like that for years. I remember having this thought like in elementary school. So this isn't like 30-year-old me. Like I've always kind of
thought like that,
felt that way. Yeah.
Bro, yeah, so my example is like the shit that they would say to me is like, oh, you gonna mow my lawn, Juan? Like, you know, they would call you the stereotypical like Spanish Mexican names and be like, you gonna mow my lawn, and like that type of shit. And I'll be like, yo, first off, I'm not Mexican, so you're doing the wrong accent. Second off, this is ignorant as fuck. It's mad lame persona. It's the lamest shit ever. And like now at my age, I'm just like, if I was placed there in that situation today and people were saying that, I would just be like, yo, this is cringe as fuck, and I would just walk away. But like at like 15, 16 being called that shit is annoying as fuck, bro. And like another example I had is I had a friend who's got like he's German Irish, right? He's born in the United States, but he's German Irish from his parents. His mom used to play like German music as he was a baby, right, to like help him sleep, and he developed like a slight German accent. I was never able to tell because I knew the dude since we were like 6, so I never could tell. But other people who met him when he was like 14, 15, 16 or whatever and never knew him, they could tell the accent, and they used to like, at that age is when they start teaching you about the Holocaust in school. Sure. So as we're learning about the Holocaust, he's the only dude, and he kind of has like a German accent, so people would fucking, you know, be like, oh, what's up, Nazi? Are we gonna fucking you're gonna fucking gas some Jews today, Nazi? Shit like that, where it was like, yo, this is like real bad. And thankfully the good thing is like he had a good close-knit group of friends that he could fall back on. Like he could go home and and not have to think about all those fucking bullies or whatever. People that don't have anybody and like they're being bullied at school, and then they go home and they got like, you know, no support, no emotional support from parents, no friends, like that shit sucks. And like, I don't know, I think it's important to teach about history, because like, I don't know if it's any correlation, man, but like the amount of violence, the amount of shootings in the United States, the amount of like just like emotional, mental illness that we have, like it's sad, bro. Like that shit is really fucking scary. I don't know what we could do about it. I feel like it's like a couple different things we should focus on, but I feel like, hold on, I should read a little bit of chat because we've been going and going. Yo, thank you for the follow. Maradillo?
Mads in chat.
Hey, they said we love Piano. Yeah, Piano bring a special something to every stream. I love it. I love it so much. Let me scroll up a little bit. Let me see what we missed.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna piggyback off that,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, collective of diverse individuals, intellectually diverse. Exactly, bro. Like it's more than just the you know, we're just going to have a bunch of like, we're going to have one black dude, we're going to have one Chinese lady, we're going to have this one Latino. That's not real diversity. Like, and that's why you see a lot of corporations, they'll do that shit. They're like, oh, but we have like, our CFO is black and it's a black, like, you know, they'll say that shit, but it's like, oh, wait, but all of you think the same. All of you have the same mentality. So none of you actually understand like anything about anything else. Like, despite the differences that you can go out and present and fucking virtue signal, like that shit is not real. That is their problem and their loss. Yeah, I got that too.
Affirmative action is so shallow in its kind of how it ended up being.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know shit about it, bro. Like I need to do my proper research before I really comment on this, because like I need to know why it was implemented, like what the reasoning and statistics was, and then where it went. Because, you know, like it's one thing to like the concept of an idea to replace it, and then the realities that follow. So like I definitely need to do more research on that shit.
Sure.
I got that too. Told that I was good for birthing kids because I'm Mexican. Like, what the fuck,
brutal,
yo? That shit is so crazy. What the fuck? I hate that stereotype. That's fucked up. Yeah. Friends wouldn't let me into classroom because they said, show me your green card. Yo, what the fuck? That shit is so wild. They wish that.
Brutal.
Yo, and man, that shit kills me because like, what's it called? Diversity is like such a like, I guess, celebrated thing now, and a lot of it is very shallow. But as a kid, like it's different from it being shallow now. Like that's a problem. But not having it at all, like not having any representation, like I think causes shit like that. Like people really that grew up in like in echo chambers of diversity, of thought, of belief. They went out and they thought, oh, everybody else must be like this. So when I see somebody that's not like me, we could just pick on them for like their differences. And that shit sucks, bro. Like, yeah. Because not everybody gets the opportunity to grow up in like a diverse city like New York or a state like California where you see a little bit of everything. Like some people really are just in like one town. This is it. It's like I had this one girl who was like the cashier in Virginia Beach when me and Sundere went. She was like, yo, because Virginia Beach is very touristy, she's like, we get a lot of people here from Kentucky, and like they like stare at me like because they've never seen a brown person before. Like they're just like, holy shit, I've never ever seen like in real life. Obviously now with TV, social media, but like in real life they had never seen anything like that, so they stare a little bit. And I I can't even fathom that reality because I grew up in New York where you see everything.
Yeah. I grew up in rural Northwest Ohio, so there was all the way up until kind of my parents' age. There were places that they couldn't go downtown. And so like that's a very recent kind of shift, even in the town that I grew up in. And that's Ohio. That's the Midwest. That's not necessarily the South or anything. But going back to what we were talking about, and Persona kind of brought it up, like you talked about how it's easier for us to kind of adopt this more mature kind of level-headed, like stronger ideas, terms of like how we see ourselves and our own personal identity. And it's harder for early teens, middle school or high schools coming up. But that's where we come in, right? Like that's where we come in, and we say, listen, like I figured it out. So let us not be be the generation that's just kind of like, oh, like you were kind of questioned for this, like, oh my goodness, that's so, we're gonna protest this. It's like, no, like sit down with that kid and be like, listen, like did they keep you from class? No. Okay. Did they keep you from eating? No. Did you learn something? Yes. Did you enjoy your extracurriculars things? Did they keep you from that? No. Okay. So what actually happened? Well, they said something, they questioned my whatever identity, insert identity here. It's just like, okay, well, that has nothing to do with you actually being that. So where are we at? Like you can be sympathetic and be like, yo, that sucks that people are like that. But people are people, and people are always going to be people. And like I think, like, okay, so.
But real quick, hold on. Let me just ask you something, like, because like, who are we to individually say like what should affect each person? You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has their line in the sand. Everybody has that one thing that causes them some type of upset feeling, and like it's gonna be different for you. It's gonna be different for me. You know what I'm saying? And like, would you? I imagine if you went to like a piano concert, right? And somebody was just badgering you all night. Let's say it wasn't even about race. It was about something else. Like they just said they didn't like your shoes or some shit, bro. Like they just didn't like. It's obviously something that you could think like, yo, this is not like the end of the world. I'm just going to enjoy this concert. I'm going to just like, when I leave this place, I'm not going to see these people ever again. Fuck them or whatever. But then do you want that, right? Do you still like that shit is still annoying? Like, I feel like instead of focusing on teaching the people like, yo, look, although this happened, at the end of the day, did you learn something? Did you get to class or whatever? We should be focused on like teaching the people like, yo, you should not be focused. You should not be badgering people, right? Like, as opposed to teaching the person who is being frustrated or being attacked or being the one like the victim of this. Isn't it more important to focus on the person who is doing the victimizing, right? Like, if that was happening, right, that scenario right there, you're at a piano concert, this motherfucker's just like all night being like, look at the fucking dumb fucking shoes this dude is wearing, ha ha ha, and he's like getting other people around him, right? Because it very little stays self-contained. It's usually like, at least for me, it was like one person making the jokes, and then if they just happen to be around other friends, they were trying to make those friends laugh. Those friends would eventually get in on some of the jokes because they felt more empowered when they were in like a small group of people and they felt like they outnumbered you. If I then came in, I'm like a teacher, right? I'm the principal, or no, because we're at a piano concert. I'm the fucking, I don't know, the manager of the piano of the venue. I come in and I'm just like, hey man, like, I know this guy has been bothering you all night. He's been saying shit to you. It might make you upset, but like, you're still in here. You're still having a good time. You're still enjoying yourself. You could be home, not at this concert. You know what I'm saying? Like, did you still enjoy yourself? Did you still like the music? As opposed to going up to the dude and being like, hey, sir, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you may not like his shoes, but it's not you. This doesn't affect you or whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's like two different routes you could go. And I usually would take the, what's it called? The route of teaching a lesson to the person who is like, I don't know, unwantedly just making someone else feel uncomfortable.
So like, in that particular scenario, you're fucking up the show, so we need to kick you out.
No, but bro, what if the show wasn't getting fucked up? This dude is just like
Yeah.
whispering behind you, right? Like
Yeah.
the show is still going on, but he's just doing something that just subtly annoys you, bro.
Well, here's the thing, so you're not wrong, but I think like when I think of people who insult things like that, like things where I'm like this really didn't actually affect you in reality, and so let's grow here. That goes full circle, right?
Yeah.
So like no one who likes their shoes is insulting somebody else's shoes, or like who is confident in their shoes.
Wait, hold on. We need to also tie this in back to like the main bullying one because like even I'm getting confused, bro. Like I was getting halfway. I was like, wait, no, I'm not the principal. I'm the manager.
No, I got you.
So hold on. Like in terms of like, let's say you're at school and somebody's just making jokes to you, like, oh, where's your green card? Blah 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 blah. That shit, like, you know, enough times said can affect you emotionally, and then affect the way that you're taking information in the class, affecting the way that you make friendships with other people. Because all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't know, like, are they gonna make like these types of jokes? Like you tend to socialize less if you think that more people are antagonistic.
Okay, so that's a fair point. I'll give you that. So like I'm gonna tie it in too, because like, so there's two sides of this. All right. One, I've said you can't be shamed for something you're not ashamed of.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what that's where I was doubling down on. That is just kind of like, you can't make fun of me for something that I don't feel self-conscious about, or better yet, that I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like you should be, if somebody is bullying you and targeting pieces of your identity, like we're talking about, like if we're emphasizing like you to be more secure and more strong in who you are and the understanding of what you're taught, of who you are and how you fit into the society, which is hard. Don't get me wrong, but like if we're pushing that and we're preaching that, there will be less things, like you said, that list will get shorter and shorter of things that actually get through to you and really actually hurt you. Okay. And on the other side of that, like, I don't need to talk down to somebody if I'm secure in all those things for myself, right? Because I have nothing to gain. If I have no ego to gain, no self-worth to gain, no any of that, if I don't have any of that to gain, then I don't need to put you down for your sexual orientation or your gender, identity, or your shoes or whatever that, because I know all of those things about me. I'm comfortable in all those things about me, and like I gain nothing from putting you down on those things.
Yeah. But we talking about other bullies. We talking about bullies that for whatever reason they just do it, right? Because like I've never been a bully, so it's hard for me to really figure out like what, like, I mean, I think I was not a bully. I hope I did not bully anybody, man. But like, I never thought like that. Like, yo, I'm gonna go in today, and when I see this person, I'm gonna make these jokes, despite knowing that it upsets them. Like, I've never thought like that.
But are bullies classically super self-aware and super, self-confident? And,
that's, I don't know,
you know what
man.
I mean? I feel like over the years, like we've kind of, and again, I could do more research on this as well, but I feel like we pretty much as a society have understood that bullies aren't the most confident people in the world. Like, bullies aren't the most secure in who they are. Bullies tend to have some shit going on at home or elsewhere in their life that's making them feel inferior in certain aspects of their identity, so they then take it out on somebody else. I think there's very, very rarely, especially in teenagers where we're kind of really like focused on right now, like especially like there's very rarely narcissistic, egotistical bullies who genuinely think that they are above. Like, I genuinely fully believe that I'm above all these people or these particular people, and I'm going to bully them. Even the popular kids, right? Even the the jocks and the cheerleaders and the classic like 80s bullying, throwing people in the fucking locker and shit. Like even that, like we always go back to the jock who is just kind of like, I have to prove all these things to my dad, so when I get third, you know what I mean? Like all of that. So that's what I mean when I think it's a double-edged sword. Like you can preach the same thing to both parties, right? Like you can you can genuinely preach like this same concept to not just the person who's being bullied and feeling some type of way, but to the person who's doing the bullying, because you can agree. You know, you can sit down and be like, hey, like, does this really actually affect you and your experience in reality? If you are confident in all this, all right, cool. Now, bully, like, do you really think that you need to put this person down in this way to make yourself feel more confident in who you are, right? Like, let's have that same conversation on both sides of the spectrum.
Facts,
you know, and not just say like, oh, woe's me, that shitty person. Like, no, because that, like, I don't think we naturally like to put people down. We naturally don't, you know, like, like it all comes from a sense of like self-consciousness in a particular way. You know, that's why they always say like, you know, if you're homophobic, you might have like some deep-seated kind of repression going on that you're trying to kind of battle with. So you gotta take it on people who actually have come out and are confident in that aspect of their lives. You know,
facts.
So cheers to Sundere for the refill.
Yeah, you saw. He said cheers to Sundere for the refill. Hell yeah. Oh man, bro, we killing it right now. Let me just go back. Man. There's a lot of good ass comments in here that I'd love for you to for us to read. What's it called? Let me see. Where do I start with this? Leo said, I bully because I empty inside and because PP no work. That is why, you see, that's he's the classic 80s bully right there. Right, empty inside, PP not working, but just big as fuck. Just fucking bullying people and shoving them in the lockers.
Yeah.
He said, why you gotta look down, Xave? You got boxers and high socks? Yeah, bro. He said, Pianoman has no pants and dress shoes on. This conversation is fire.
And bright red satin boxers. All right,
bright red
satin boxers.
Hey, we came in here and we couldn't let all that clothes and stuff bring us. Like, we gotta be mentally flexible right now, physically and mentally flexible right now for these conversations, because these are fucking dope conversations, and I love this shit, man. Like, I think there's a lot of things in the civil discourse right now that goes on in social media where people might agree on they might agree on certain things, but they disagree on how to get there, right? They disagree on a lot of the actual solutions and stuff. And it's tough, man. It's really tough, because I really do think that a lot of the loudest voices are the ones that we see. And like podcasts, like, man, there's like millions of podcasts out there, bro. Like, so people are definitely having conversations, and people are definitely talking about these topics, whereas we used to not be able to, just because we didn't have the reach. We didn't have the tools to reach out to other people and talk to them the way that we do.
Absolutely.
My bad. Persona had said something that I wanted to branch off of before. Shit, let me scroll back up. Yeah, this is true. If we emotionally react to their emotional reaction, where does the resolution come in? That's where the mental has to coincide with the emotional. Yeah, and I agree with what you said. We need to teach both. Like, I think 100% we need to teach both. Look, this is diversity. There's going to be people out there that have different tastes than you, that have different thoughts than you. You don't need to put them down to fucking, make up for something else that you might be missing in your life or whatever. And then we need to also teach people, like, look, the idea of like tough skin, right? The idea of just like, not everything needs to be like the end of the world for you, right? Like, some people might do this but bounce back or rise above it, and that's like always a good thing. Like, because I don't believe we shouldn't teach anybody that they should that, like, you've had it like this and this is how it's always gonna be. Fuck that shit, man. You should always be trying to inspire people. And like, there's a difference between teaching them realities, right? Teaching them, like, look, this is what happened in history, this is why things might be like this, but you can always surpass that with enough drive and willpower and all this, you can surpass it. Fall 8 times, get up 4 times. Exactly. Always take naps every 2 times. Fall 7.
I like that math. Yeah,
straight up.
No, you're so spot on. And like I see, I'm in a city now where there are some neighborhoods, and they're not obviously, but they're predominantly minorities.
Yeah.
And I drive through them and I go through them and I interact with people, and there's no way these places get that way if they believe that there's better, and I wonder, and I've been very, very fortunate in my life. I don't speak from experience, and I don't claim to speak from experience, but I talk to folks and there is that sentiment. There is that sentiment that like I'm starting 3 steps back. I'm starting 3 steps behind from my white friend. So therefore, like I should. It is what it is. I'm always gonna be behind. Like we get what we get, and that's because of our history and this and that and the other. And it's just kind of like, listen, like there's a lot of things that have contributed to he says white privilege. Like I was actually accused of white privilege from one of my internet friends who apparently my complexion doesn't come through the computer.
That's so wild. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, man. I've been told that I had white privilege because of my lighter skin in the Latino community. Like that there are certain things that as a light-skinned Latino, I don't have to deal with, as opposed to, like, let's say a darker-skinned Latino. And I think that is true, man. Like, that is inevitably true. Like, there's a lot of racism in the Hispanic community. A lot of colorism, bro. Like, I see it in my family where they don't want to be called negrito. They don't want to be called, like, DR and Haiti have a very rough history and relationship, right? Because it's like... there was a president, Trujillo. He was a dictator, and he was killing dark-skinned Dominicans and Haitians, man. He slaughtered them at the border and shit. So, like, that's really engraved into a lot of Dominicans' minds, is, like, from that era. Like, being a light-skinned Latino is superior to being a dark-skinned Latino.
Yeah. Certainly. I mean, I can all of my mom's side, the Latino side, they're all light skinned. So I guess I never really felt that from my family per se.
Mm-hmm.
But I've only felt like I've never felt like white, like except for that one time when I was accused of white privilege. Like I've never felt like the white people that I've encountered like thought that I was white. Or I think, that kind of goes back to what we were saying. It's just kind of like we're if we really want to like split hairs like this, like we're not Latin enough for Latinos and we're not white enough for white people. And for me being mixed, same thing with black folks. It's just kind of like so at the end of the day, I don't know. I can't speak. I've lived a privileged life for a lot of other reasons
in different aspects.
Be based off of that. I don't know, and I don't assume that people. Again, like it doesn't matter to me. Like I don't assume that people are treating me poorly because they know that I'm not white, or they're treating me better than somebody that they know they're not white, but like I'm light skinned, so it works. Mm-hmm. Like I've just always kind of taken it for face value. If you treat me well, we're good, and I don't need to ask questions why you would treat me well, or if you would treat and if you treat my friend poorly and me well, then we're still gonna have a problem, right? Mm-hmm. So like, and if you treat me poorly, again, like same issue, we have a problem. So I don't care where it comes from, what root it is, like that you treat me poorly. It's just that you did. You just did.
Hold on. I want to get into another good question that I had written down that I wanted to ask you, but let me just go up real quick because this kind of ties into what you said. Persona said, I feel privileged being American and not being born into a war-torn country. Yeah, like there is 100% the fact that we can even have as like a main focus on this conversation about things like race, or that we can talk about gender. Like, in a lot of countries, they don't have the privilege of thinking about shit like that, because they gotta worry about where are we getting food, or like, I gotta go fucking fish in this fucking river that I also, like, our community fucking shits in, and like, they fucking, like, you know, there's like just things that as, you know, and I think that you've seen it online where it's like first world problems. Like, I saw that like for a while trending. It was kind of like, oh, when your house is so big that you need 2 Wi-Fi routers, hashtag first world problems, shit like that. Like, shit like that they do not ever think about in fucking countries that are impoverished. Like, so yeah, like, there's a lot of different types of privileges, that's for sure. Like, and hold on, let me just read a couple more things, and then I'm gonna ask you this question. Grand Pianoman got beautiful skin complexion. I want to harvest respectfully. You do have a nice ass complexion, and you have the type of complexion, bro, that people pay money to get, bro. People tan and they get all fucking they pay money for that shit, baby. They fucking want that shit that you see all on social media. It's like, oh, in the summer I gotta get tan, I feel better when I'm tan. God damn it, that complexion is beautiful.
Yo, during band camp, it would get real crispy, y'all. And during band camp, yo.
Band camp, when you out in the sun,
camp,
the fucking. What did you play? What'd you play?
I was on the drum line.
The drum line. That's fire, bro.
One band, one sound. You know what I'm saying?
What's it called? Sengi said some old dude asked me if I was an immigrant. Yo, you see that? I'm a comment on this. I've also got called a Blaxican. Racists are so dumb. Straight up. So here's I think where I've seen an example of oh, yo, Joshua, thank you for coming in. What's up, bro? Thank you. Damn, there's a lot of fucking comments in here I haven't been able to get to. People tweak when I say I don't believe in white privilege. White privilege is only a thing because there are some racists. No. Okay, so here's my understanding of white privilege. And that's the thing, is like, a lot of these concepts, bro, are just so fucking ambiguous. You know what I'm saying? Like, the concept of cancel culture, like, at one point I was like, all right, I get what this means, and I disagree with a lot of this, but it just becomes so ambiguous where, like, people just throw it out at anything. Or the concept of woke. I have no idea what the fuck woke means anymore, bro. Like, that shit has no meaning to me anymore because people just say it. It's like, if they do something that you don't like, yo, you're woke. You're woke. So woke. It's so woke. And I'm like, yo, this shit doesn't mean anything. But my example, man. Talk about it. Yo, in terms of, like, you'll see sometimes videos of it, and I thought I would never see it, and then I saw it one time in the supermarket. This white dude was just, like, in front of this Mexican lady. I think she was Mexican. She had Mexican features, so if she wasn't Mexican, my bad. But you know, she had just, like, features that resembled a Mexican woman. And this dude was like, we speak English here. We speak English in America. Speak the fucking language and shit. And I was like, yo, I've seen videos like this in before, but I had never seen this shit in person. And you know what was sad about this, man? This lady was with her, like, maybe like 9-10-year-old daughter. You could tell that the woman didn't speak English and had no idea what the guy was saying. She just thought he was harassing her. But the little girl, who must have, like, been in the school system learning English, she was hearing it all. So she had to witness this grown man telling her mom, like, go back to your country. We speak English here. Fucking speak English when you're out in the supermarket and shit. And, like, the mom had no idea because she didn't understand what the fuck this dude was saying. So it's just like, this guy is being annoying, and, you know, I feel kind of unsafe because who knows, maybe he'll snap or whatever. Yeah. But the little girl had to then witness a moment where blatant racism to her mom and shit. Like, these people don't want us here. And, like, the privilege comes from, dude, what the fuck did this dude do to deserve to be like, you know, I belong here and you don't, other than being born in some fucking shithole fucking town in wherever the fuck he was born? You know what I'm saying? Like, we were talking about it earlier, things that we can't control, height, gender, when we're the sex, not gender, sex, certain things, you know, race that we're born with, we cannot control that. So what the fuck did this dude do to be able to be like, you know what, I belong here, this is my country and I don't want you here, other than literally just win the birth lotto and be born as an American who just has the passport and has the papers, as opposed to this woman who we have no idea her story, we have no idea what it took for her to get here, we have no idea, she might have honestly been American, man, like she could have fucking been American and just not known the language. But that was the privilege, that this dude thought, I belong here and I get to say who I want to be here simply because I am this person, like because I was born here and I'm white.
I mean, is that privilege though? Like, is that privilege for him to say that? Like, we're criticizing him right now, like for the whole internet to see. And I don't think that video was probably shown in any light.
No, this wasn't a video. I'm talking about my just like I saw this in person. I didn't videotape it.
Oh, you saw it in person. Oh, okay,
I'm not internet thought like that. I was about to be like, what's
so,
going on here?
Well, like this situation, you know, like I doubt anybody in that supermarket was looking at this guy like, fuck yeah, like
nobody was hearing it, bro. I was the only one, man, and this dude was homeless. So like I said a couple things. I was just like, yo, leave her alone. But like at the end of the day.
Homeless?
I don't know if he was homeless. He looked homeless, bro. I said he looked homeless. Like, he had the look of somebody with nothing to lose, man. So, like, if I got into it with him, it would have been a physical fight. And I think we were talking about it earlier. Like, you know, the emotional response to the emotional response. Yeah. Sometimes it's tough. And, like, all I could really do was just, like, I was speaking to her in Spanish, just trying to tell her, like, you know, just move along or whatever. And just kind of, like, standing there, like, watching this all unfold, hoping that the pressure of having eyes on him would get him to stop. But it didn't, bro. That's just the reality.
Well, I think so a couple things here. Like, that's obviously, like, a terrible situation, and I wouldn't, like
yeah, and more of what I'm focusing on that is just the privilege of, dude, you think that you're entitled to this country and you're entitled to certain things here simply because you were born here. You didn't do shit. You did not achieve shit. All you did was just win the birth lotto. You weren't born in a different place at a different time. You were born here, which then makes you think that you have the entitlement to say who belongs here and who doesn't.
Yeah. But is that real? Like, we're talking about that like right now, and I think most of us understand that so I guess my pushback would be like, there's no privilege to that. You get to like I could go out and harass somebody if I really wanted to, and shout bullshit and make them feel uncomfortable. Anybody can do that, no matter what if you were born here, color. So like,
but this specifically has a race element to it. This had a race element where it was like, hey, speak the language here, and this is America, we speak English. So like, I get what you're saying, but the example has to have the race element to it as well, because, you know, when it comes to white privilege, that we're talking about the privilege along racial lines.
I guess what I'm getting at is like, there's no benefit to being able to, for whatever reason you feel like you can, like, there's no benefit in the reality that he gets to harass this person. Like, I can harass a white person if I really wanted to, just because like I guess I wouldn't have the territorial whatever, like you were talking about, especially like he was kind of going after like English speaking to not English speaking, but at the end of the day, like, he gained nothing from that interaction. Like, there's no, like, if we like that's not where, like, if we're really want to break down like white privilege, like, there's places where you can have the debate, but if we're going to set the bar at you get to harass somebody because you speak English and they don't,
well, you think like you can,
or exactly, that's my point, as like a privilege, then like there's no privilege there. Like, you think you like I think I can shit in the wood, like I think I can shit on the sidewalk, like that, like that
would be a privilege though.
Like, no,
what I'm saying is, but what I'm saying is, because it's not all, like, I don't think that just because you think, hey, I get no benefit from this, doesn't make it privilege. Because, like, oftentimes, you know, people that do certain things aren't always doing it for, like, hey, how is this going to benefit me, right? Like, there are certain times where it's just like a power aspect, where it's like, hey, and I think it's like this, where it's like, hey, I was born here, so I think I have power over you. I might be the fucking poorest white dude in my neighborhood, but at least I'm not a fucking Latino or a Latina. That's the mentality, where it's like, I have that little bit of privilege where, like, I might be the poorest fucking dude. I might be whatever, but it's still, I'm above you because of just this little privilege that I have. That is simply because of my race or where I was born.
Okay. I mean, I guess to me, I just skip to the fact where it doesn't matter, right? Like you, like to like your thinking in your own mind, like that's not a privilege that I care about. Like if you, for whatever reason, give yourself the privilege to think in an ignorant way, like I don't see that as beneficial. Like that's actually like very unproductive for you to think that you have a privilege that in reality you don't actually have. So
Yeah,
like
it is unproductive, but it still happens, man. It still happens just because, like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know if it's taught on a societal level. Maybe what's it called? It's just a feeling that you get, like, from all of the patriotism that we've been pushed on. Like, hey, you're an American, so you deserve this, and this is the greatest land on earth, and like this is it. I don't. It's like it is complicated, man. It's definitely complicated.
History is history, right? And history, everything creates bias, and nothing creates bias more than history, right? Like to the victors go the spoils, right? So like there will always be based off of the conqueror to the conqueree, however you want to go back through history and define it, there's always going to be this feeling of superiority to the people who actually got to write the history books, right? But for me, again, it's that balance that we were talking about, like understanding the history and understanding why, especially like on both sides, right? Like as a minority, like understanding our history more and understanding where we came from, and the good, the bad, and the ugly of what that means to exist here in America as that particular, you know, as a minority, as a Latino, as a black person, as a Chinese person, as all these people, understanding that even as a white person. And that's where I get to the flip side of that, like understanding where you like where your ancestors came in and where your bias comes from, like, and being like, okay, like that's cool. Like I get why in certain situations I would internally feel that I'm up here to a certain amount of people, but I'm also taught that in reality, like it doesn't matter. Like in reality, America, we speak dozens of different languages in our household. In America, like there's plenty of people who have just the same right to be here as anybody else who don't speak English, right? Like that's the reality of the situation, and that's genuinely how it really is. So like I promise I understand what you're saying, and like that shouldn't happen, and these biases shouldn't be. And I hope that like as we become more comfortable and confident in our individual like identities and our histories and where we come from, we won't have either side of that. We won't have people being sensitive to these things because it doesn't matter, and we won't have people thinking that they're superior because of these things because they know it doesn't matter or they can't get anything from it. However, like I think like just again, I lost my train of thought. But like I just think like you thinking that you're superior, like that's not privilege to me, and that can't matter to me. Like this, like
so what do you think privilege is? Like just in general, what would you say is like a privilege?
I think there are people, especially in America, who are privileged from the day they're born, and that stems all ethnicities, all that. Like I've known black people who, if they didn't want to work their whole life, like they wouldn't have to, you know, I went to a very upper middle class school, and it wasn't just white people there. There was 99% white people there, but there were still, so to me, like privilege is situational. Like I can have privilege in certain situations over people, depending on where we're at or what we're trying to gain or the ends that we're trying to meet, whatever. So like to me, privilege is you know, like I don't want to be cliche and be like we're all privileged to be Americans, because like eh. But like I love America and I would never want to, but like everybody should think that their country is everybody should love their country and what it represents. And because like to love your country and what it represents, you also see where you fall a little bit short sometimes. So like I think you can't like everybody like these. I think a lot of times, especially in young people, we feel like we have to hate America because of the history. It's just kind of like, no, love America because we actually can talk about that and say, hey, let's be better because America is supposed to be better. There are countries that it's just established that certain people who identify as this, they gotta die, or they don't identify as that, or they're not part of society, or whatever the case may be, and like that's the end of the conversation. Mm-hmm. Like there's no nuance, there's no anything like that adding to the conversation to say like, hey, maybe this isn't the most productive way to do things. And if you do try to have that conversation, well, you're kind of in line with those people that's not part of their society. Mm-hmm. So like I think we should really like understand the history that came from America. I don't like that we have to completely say like, oh, America was founded on genocide. Yeah, we should understand those aspects of our early history so that we don't repeat it.
Yep.
But also like we can't sit here and be like, well, fuck the USA because it was built on this, or we had slavery or whatever.
Bro,
everywhere. Yeah.
No, I will say fuck the USA for the healthcare system, man. I'm fucking sick and tired of this healthcare system. I pay too much money every month to still have a fucking $3,000 deductible, bro. This shit is a mafia, bro. Is this? No, but
we need a whole we need to get our British and other like.
Sea of Woody, where are you?
in this chat.
We need some Canadians up in here for real.
Yeah, because
no,
yeah.
But straight up, it's extremes. You know what I'm saying? So like the extreme to be like, I fucking hate America, but then not look at everything else that other nations might like that we might be better at than other nations. That's an extreme, and that's not good. But then it's weaponized, right? Like, because you'll have a lot of people being like, oh, you should just be grateful that you're here and you shouldn't criticize America for anything, which I think is counterproductive because the only way that you move as a society is criticizing and improving and looking at what works in other places and then adapting those and improving on them. I think for a lot of people, man, they only view America. Like, that's it. It's just America. They don't look at anything else around the world because they've been drilled with that nationalism where it's like, we're the best country in the world. We have everything right. And they believe that shit. And then all of a sudden you show them a little bit of stats. And it's like, okay, what are we the best at? Like, where do we rank in education? Where do we rank in healthcare?
Rate.
Incarceration rate. Yo, we number one. We number one. When it comes to locking people up, we number one.
We will lock you the fuck up.
Lock it straight up. And so that's where it gets weaponized, where it's like, hey, don't say anything bad about this place. Like, just be grateful that you're here. Because, yeah, obviously we do have it very good in comparison to a lot of other countries where they don't have as many human rights, let's say like in the Middle East. But then also the same people that are like, well, at least I could like do this and like I won't get like killed like they do here, won't look at like, hey, what are they doing in Canada? What are they doing in Spain? What are they doing in Japan? What are they doing anywhere else outside of here? Like, it feels like it's always like it has to be America compared to like somewhere that's like a third world country. Like, that's the only comparisons they make, where it's like, hey, why don't you compare it to any other country in the developed world that it should be compared to? Because some of these comparisons are just so off, where it's like, oh, how are we in comparison to like, I don't know,
Uganda.
It's like, what the fuck? We're the richest country in the fucking world. Like, it's just a whole different platform. Endgame vibes, what's up? Welcome.
Hey, you know the vibes. Let's go.
Hey, what's it called? And so yeah, I think there's two bad extremes to it, right? It's straight up just like never complaining, and then always complaining and not giving any solutions. Like, just strictly focusing on like, hey, this is what we did wrong. Like, 400 years ago, and I'm still hung up on this. But I offer no solutions as to what we can do.
Yeah. No, and like I think, like, you can't, if you don't love your, like, again, going back to yourself, but it applies broader. Like, if you don't love yourself or love your country, like you don't see it getting any better. Like, you don't see it improving. You don't. So like, I would like, if you say that America's perfect or America's like the best country in the world, it's just kind of like, all right, so you believe that, so that means that we should be able to improve ourselves more than any other country, or
exactly,
we should take a harder look at our history and what we're doing than other countries. Like, you know, it goes back to even individuals, right? Like if I can't see myself better improving where I'm at now, improving my mindset, my situation, you know, getting that promotion, whatever. I can't see that for myself if I don't absolutely love myself and think that I deserve that. So like to love yourself or your country or your or whatever you are a part of, like, you have to be able to see the improvements, or at least be able to say, hey, like I overall don't think this would be an improvement to what we're doing, but like, let's keep having this conversation until we maybe do get something that is just kind of like, all right, like, this is overall better than what we're working on. You know, you talked about, it's just kind of like, that's a big thing, because like I think both sides, right? Both sides are kind of like missing the mark. You know, like there's a lot, like, people who think that we should have completely socialized healthcare. It's just kind of like, well, you're not quite seeing, like, have a conversation with a European, right? Like, have a conversation with you know, those guys, and see, like, hey, like hear them say, like, yo, like, I needed a fucking knee replacement and I had to wait 9 months for this shit. You know, when it's like, yeah, you might pay 50 grand, but you in there next week, son. You know, like,
but the thing, to pay 50 grand is not like just like an easy thing to do when everybody, like, I think it was like the statistic is like a majority of Americans can't afford like $1,000 emergency, bro. Like, 50 grand is crazy, man. And like, yo, but what you're saying is absolutely right. And our healthcare system is not going to be the same as Canada's. It's not going to be the same as the UK's. It will be the American version of it. And it will be different because we have a much larger population. We have a completely different form of electoral politics when it comes to like states' rights and federal rights. Like, it's going to be completely different in terms of that. It's just like, I hate when people shut down shit, and it's just like, you're trying to destroy America. By doing what? By trying to try something different? Because we've been doing the same shit for mad long, and then all of us, and it's not working. You got mad people in medical debt. Like, I'm trying to destroy America. Like, and that's what sucks, man, because everybody thinks that they're improving on something. Everybody thinks that their solution is the right one. But it sucks when all of a sudden you're met with like, well, your solution is you're just trying to you hate America. You must hate America. Where it's like, listen, man, I'm just trying to propose my solutions the same way you are. They're just different solutions.
Yeah, and it comes back to, you know, it comes back to individual strength and confidence, because like again, if I'm confident in how I think, right, then I see the progression to get there, right? I see the research I've done. I see the anecdotes that I've heard. I've seen my own personal experience, and I understand all those things, and I add all those things up, and that brings me to my perspective. So I can confidently and openly sit down with somebody with a different perspective, who hopefully is just as confident in those steps that they got to get to their perspective. I can sit there and I can hear them out, and I can match tit for tat, and I can be like, and then when I can't match it up, I can be like, oh shit. Maybe this is something different that I didn't compute, that I didn't factor into my own perspective. And because we're both so confident in that, like, and vice versa, maybe I can throw something out there, and like both of our perspectives can change because we were open to that, and we were so, because it really does start with that. Because like, if I'm confident in my perspective, unless you bring something that genuinely changes, like that's genuinely different than where I was computing a different integer in the equation, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm still here, and
Yeah.
there's nothing you can say that's going to deter me from my way of thinking. So like I can sit down and be like, okay, like let's hash this out, and we can confidently throw that out there. And if nothing sticks for either one of us, we can just leave. We can just leave amicably, and
Yeah.
we still think the same way. We had our perspectives challenged. We openly took that in, and we were just kind of like, you know what? I still think the same way.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that it all comes back to the same thing, man. Like so many of our issues that we face on a societal level, individual level, relationship level, it all comes back to our own individual self-confidence and put it, and it takes work, right? Like I can't be confident in something that I just spit from my neck, right? Like if I'm going to say something like and be confident in it, like I've thought about it, I've researched it, I've listened to other people say like, hey, you know, like this is how I think. You know, I've listened to people say, hey, you're full of shit, and I've heard them out and been like, you know what, like I don't think I am. You know, I don't think I am. So like it all comes back, and I talk about like relationships too. Like you can't be an abuser if you're confident, right? Like I guess there's some arguments and there's some certain scenarios where you have like a narcissist and it's egotistical, and that can kind of exhibit itself in some abusive ways. But I would venture to say 9 times out of 10, like if you are confident especially as a man, it goes with anybody, but especially as a man, like if I know who I am, like I'm not questioning my masculinity, I'm not questioning the things, like I went with my wife to get a mani-pedi kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like and there's nothing crazy about that. Like then her femininity or her challenging me or her doing whatever, that can't hurt me. That can't hurt me. So I don't need to put her down. I don't need to be physically abusive. I don't need to be mentally abusive, emotionally abusive. I don't need to do any of that. And that's relationships, but it's every type of interaction with somebody. Like if I'm confident in what I'm bringing to the table and who I am, like I gain nothing from putting you down, even subconsciously. Like even if I'm not actually like having this conversation with myself to where I'm like, okay, like what can I say to this person to make me feel better? It's just kind of like, no, even subconsciously, like if I'm confident in who I am, like I can't say anything bad to somebody. I can't say it because like that's not me. That why would I hurt them? Like they should be just as confident and their shit as I am. You know, so it all comes back to confidence. You know,
confidence. Yeah, straight up. Let me go back and read some of these comments. Cherry Mochi, what's going on? Long time no see. How have you been? What's going on? Welcome. We having fire conversation. It was about identity. It's about a whole lot of things. It's exactly as beautiful as I thought it was gonna be, and it flowing like a river, straight flowing like stream of consciousness river. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to have a great conversation, and that's what we doing. Welcome, happy Sunday. Here, what's it called? Leo did send us an article that I copied. I'm going to hold on. I'm gonna read it later because it's probably long as fuck. But y'all should read this article at some point. It looks at the long-term economic effects of redlining and racial segregation on economic mobility for black families. That shit is tremendously depressing. And that's another thing, man. Like, I love the conversation we're having. I do like want it to be known. There's a lot of things where like we might be just talking off of our own personal experiences and off our personal anecdotes and how we feel about it. There are, I'm sure, like a lot of subjects where it's like, hey, we should just take some time and look at statistics. And like, that's like a big problem with debates online. I'll watch a lot of debates and stuff, but oftentimes it's like you have to trust that the people on there did their own research and are coming correct with like the information, because a lot of it comes down to just like statistics and history and stuff that like I was not alive for. I haven't looked into it. I really don't fucking know much about it. So that's why like earlier on, I think I can't remember what the topic was, but affirmative action. I was just like, yo, I don't know enough about this to really talk about it. I'm not about to be the person who's like trying to talk on here and you know, defend it or not defend it when I don't know shit about it. So like some things, like there's just a lot of stats and a lot of history behind it. redlining is a big thing, and that's not even that long ago. That's like maybe 40 years ago. Like, we got to remember, a lot of these things have residue
some of
effects.
Red line districts are still red line like that, so it's so like that's the point. Like I advocate for my own community, right? For minorities, I advocate strength and individual responsibility and individual self-confidence. That's what I advocate for, because I think we need a giant ass needle infused of all of that shit into our communities. I do not say that in lieu of there being racial issues throughout the history of this country and a lot of countries, but we're talking about this country. I would never ever say that things have always been fair for black, brown, minority people here in the United States. Like, that's the farthest thing from the truth, and that lacks understanding of history. I'm a college dropout, but before I dropped out, I studied political science. These things, history was the driving factor of me studying political science, and why we did the things and what was, the necessary benefits of those things, but I would never ever say that that things have always been great for people who have some extra melanin in their skin. I would never say that on an institutional level, that things have always been it sometimes literally drawn out to benefit us. Now, do I think that that's all pure hate? No, I think when you have an all-white legislation, there's going to be some bigotry, but there's also going to be some lack of actual understanding of the effects that these things are happening when you're just focused on the gain of your folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just to piggyback off what you're saying, like I would never say that oh, don't look at history, don't say that, no, there's been some racial, obviously up until the 60s, right? The civil rights movement was in the 60s. Like, that was when my parents were born. Like, my parents were born in the mid 60s. So to say that it was so long ago when racism happened is just like, no.
Yeah. Exactly.
That was, a lot of our parents, were still subject to some of these Jim Crow era laws, especially for those of us who grew up in the South. A lot of those things still remained up until a few decades ago.
It has residue effect, right? Like, it's not like the second the Civil Rights Act was signed, boom, that's it, we ended racism, that's it. Like, there are still a lot of these what's it called, like you said, senators, people that were there that were racist, who had great grandchildren who they passed down knowledge to, and they passed down beliefs to, that are probably in our Senate today, that are probably in positions of power today. And it's an ever changing situation that we all need to try our best to to make better. And shit, man, like, it's real tough. It's extremely difficult with a lot of these topics, because you got to know the backstory and the history of it. And that's why what's up?
Go ahead. So, and I think a little bit, we see, I'm seeing a lot of racism still exists in chat and all that. And that's not false, but I think a big thing, and it comes from, goes back to our confidence in our own, identity. There is a big difference between racism and bias, right? I think racism is truly rooted in hate. When I think of a racist, I think somebody who genuinely looks at somebody who's different than them based off of their ethnicity and says, I want bad for them. I want them to have a worse life than me. strictly based off of that. And so some people might have different definitions. That's just what how I see it. So to me, like, I think that is so few and far between that I would love for us to be a little bit more careful about how we throw out racist and racism. And on the flip side of things, like, bias is incredibly prevalent, and bias exists no matter what your skin complexion is. Like bias is real, and even subconsciously, like, so I feel like a lot of times when we talk about something being racist or an individual being racist, I think a lot of times we're talking about their inherent bias, which, like, yes, they should be educated out of, if it's significantly unproductive. Like, obviously, if you're walking in a back alley and you see somebody like walking behind you, like, shadily, you don't want to be like, oh, my bias says they're gonna rob me or something. It's just kind of like, no, listen to that bias. But there are certain situations where you have to be able to understand, like, okay, like, this is their bias based off of their experiences. They might have had a poor experience with somebody of a particular demographic, and, like, we need to talk, like we need to either talk to them and be like, if it's really bad, like, if it's really apparent and it's actually affecting your interpersonal relationships, like, we need to actually talk to them and be like, hey, man, like, where is this coming from? And, like, let's break this down. Do you really think that that's a productive way of thinking? And if you do, why? Like, let's talk about this. But other times, like, we might hint subtle things. We might catch subtle things, and it could be like, you know what? Like, let me just introduce you to some shit that kind of counters your bias. Some shit that kind of, like, let me take you to a jazz club in a predominantly black neighborhood. Let me take you to a Mexican restaurant and show you the great service. If you have a problem with, let me take you down to Chinatown and let's actually cut a rug and have a good time with some of these people that you might just, again, if you're in rural Kentucky or whatever, like, you might have had one experience with that person that might have been shit. Mm-hmm. So I've had a ton of bad experiences with Black people, Chinese people, white people, all races, but, like, I've experienced a lot of people in my life, so, like, I have a big kind of data pool to bring all that together, so I don't have that bias. So like we have to understand that it might not be racism, it might not be hate, it might actually not be even malicious, it might just be unproductive. And we need to work with those people to be like, hey, are you open to, like, being exposed to something that could maybe turn this a little bit more productive for all of our benefit? Instead of just writing folks off as, like, oh, you said something a little bit racially insensitive, or you have some feeling towards this group of people, like and just writing them off as, like, evil or racist or whatever. Like, I like, we need to have more of those conversations. Chat's popping off.
Yeah,
right
chat is popping off. I do like what Toilet Duck said, because Toilet Duck said that you and them have had an actual long conversation on something similar about this before, actually. So welcome in, Toilet Duck. Your ideas, your opinions are all welcome here, and they will only add to the beauty of this conversation. There is a difference between bias and racism, but they're not mutually exclusive, says Toilet Duck. What's it, Queen and Leo? Yo, let me take you to a Latina strip club and get your peen smashed by Amazonian culono on stilettos. That's how we beat racism, bro. That's it. How you gonna be racist while you getting this ass thrown back on you? Flazzy, welcome. Not welcome in, bro. Well, thank you for being here, homie. Endgame vibes. That shit is hilarious, right? Yo, you can't be racist if you getting his ass thrown back on you. Thank you for the bit, Small Mario. Unfortunately, we can't play Bitty Bitty Bomb Bomb right now because the conversation is too damn serious. Conversation is too good right now. Man, like, there's 100% a difference, and I think that's the thing, right? Like, there's always gonna be people that you can teach and you can educate, and there's like a chance of getting them to see things in a different way. I think there'll always be people that are just, like, very, very, for lack of better term, like, they're too far gone. Like, they're just so deep in their own beliefs that trying to educate them is just not gonna work. You could try it. You know, you might not lose anything out of it other than time and breath. Like, you can try, but it might not work. You know what I'm saying? But there will always be people that you could, like, really educate and you could talk. Toilet Duck said, racism bias is more of a square and rectangle thing. One is always the other, but not always the... Yeah, exactly. So you could be biased to people in a way that's not racially driven, but being racist means that you're being biased in a way that's I don't know. Toilet Duck, explain that shit to me, man. Explain that shit to me, man, because you in here and I like that you bringing in the opinions right away.
Yeah, to me, I feel like racism is like a whole nother level, right? Like obviously, if you're racist, right? If you genuinely hate a group of people and want them to not do as well as you in society, like that's an extreme like level of bias towards that person. Like your racism triggers your bias.
Yeah.
So that's absolutely right. But like, you know, I think many people, like I said, everybody for the most part, like everybody's biased. It's just to what level you try to work through those biases to get to a productive way of interacting with people. You know?
Yeah. Totally, Duck. Bias would be the preconceived opinion in favor or against one thing, person, group compared with another in a way to be fair. Yeah, man. And like, so like, I am human. I am definitely guilty of it, right? Like sometimes I'll see, I don't know, let's say like somebody on the subway who might be black and they just look intimidating as fuck. And maybe they have some mental illness or something, or they're acting in a way that I think is like, you know, I'll definitely, like, if I'm with Tsundere or I'm by myself, I'll be like, all right, let me go to the other end of this fucking subway. And that might come off as like, hey, I don't want to be around somebody like that. But I'm just like, it's just like preconceived notions of like, yo, this person is acting in a way where I'm scared as fuck that they might do something that just snaps, right? Like they might just do something I don't want to be near. So I will take myself out of that situation. I don't think I'm racist. There's certain situations where you look at it and I don't even process the race thing. I just process safety and getting to somewhere where I'm not in danger. And like, you know, some people definitely, I feel, think that way, but it's up to us to be like, look, you cannot then take that and generalize an entire group of people because everybody's different. No one race, no one demographic is a monolith, and that's where it gets dangerous, where people are like, oh, I had this one bad experience one time with a black dude, and now I think all black people are like this. That shit is fucked up.
Yeah. Yo, talk about what Toilet just put in there.
Racism would be marginalization or oppression of a race, ethnic group based on a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges one race over others. So when it's not perpetuating a systemic sort of hierarchy of being the man or whatever, then it's just bias or discrimination. So it's not systemic racism. But there is individual racism, right? Like where it's not part of the system and it's not part of like our laws or anything. It's just somebody, I guess, being racist.
I've heard that, like I've heard that a lot. Like when I've said for a lot of years that everybody can be racist. Like anybody, no matter what, everybody can be racist. And I've always gotten pushback because people are just like, well, no, like you hear it a lot, like black people can't be racist, right? Or Hispanics can't be racist. As members of those community, we know that that's completely
not true at all. Exactly. Yeah.
You know, like so I've always, and that's always like the excuse that, not the excuse. I don't want to put it because that's kind of like
I've heard people say like you can't be racist. You can't be racist towards white people or whatever.
Exactly, because white people are in a place of power or a place of privilege.
Yep.
And exactly what you said, like on an individual level, like that privilege can shift, right? Like if I'm a black person and a white person wants a car loan or something, like I can be very racist to that person, or vice versa. So I think, you know, we can talk about like black people and brown people, because we haven't had positions in legislature, we have not been the perpetuators of like legislative systemic racism. Like that is fair. That is a fair statement that like black people in that sense can't be systemically racist.
Uh-huh.
But if we're talking on an individual level, like, can an individual be racist or biased or whatever?
Of
That
course.
has no color definition whatsoever. And I think, like, that kind of gives people that kind of removes that personal accountability, that personal strength that we were trying to emphasize in these communities by saying, like, oh no, you can't be racist, because then, like, now I can say whatever the fuck I want. And I'm justified because I have the ethnic background to say whatever I want to whoever I want, no matter how hateful or disrespectful or any of that. Like, and that's not helpful, that's not conducive to us growing productive exactly as these communities.
That's like thinking that minority groups can't have bad ideas, bro. Like, I hate that shit when people are like, oh well, you should just listen to some black people on this issue, or it's like, I hate that shit, man, because there's like always gonna be people with different beliefs. No one group is a monolith. So for somebody to be like, oh, you shouldn't speak on this subject because you are not of this group, it's like that group, being part of that group might give you some experience, some real life experience that will help mold your belief and might give you a little bit of more knowledge on the subject. But to say like, hey, you can't speak about this at all if you're not part of this group is really just a way to shut down any type of like diverse conversation. And then you're also laying way to somebody who might not have the same ideas that you have, but they can use their their racial identity in a way to spread information that might not. I'm trying to word this right, man. Like, the only example I keep thinking of is Candace Owens, man. Like, Candace Owens will say shit, and then she'll be like, oh, are you trying to fight against, like, a black woman on this? And it's like, all right, she's using this in a way where she could just hide behind it, and you can't criticize any of her opinions because she's like, I'm a black woman. That's where you start weaponizing that shit, and that shit is so fucked.
And Candace has a lot of, and she's not too much older than us. She has a lot of, like, good ideas in terms of like, hey, like as a community, we really need to like kind of what we were talking about, like grow and strengthen and not give ourselves excuses just because of the history that is real in this country. But she, like you said, she does go off and get some really like more hateful, unproductive kind of statements. Like Small Mari said, she's doubled down on this to be a social media figurehead. But
it's a lot of contrarian opinions sometimes, where it's like she's just trying to take the opposite end.
But
and bro, the nuance just fucking, the nuance goes out of the window with a lot of these people, where it's like
100%,
it's just
100%.
They're literally just, they know the emotions. That there's a lot of people that are disillusioned from politics, bro. There's a lot of people that are disillusioned with the world because they now see how everything works, and they're like, wow, like, I feel like anything I do is just going to result in a party that's like slightly different the other, but not that much different when it comes to certain things. And they bank off that shit. They bank off of those disillusioned people that are just like waiting for some type of reactionary, like, bro, like, I really don't like culture war stuff, man. I really hate it. I don't feel like it's what we should be prioritizing. I feel like there's a lot of things that we should be talking about that affects people economically, financially, and it's covered more across a spectrum of race, of ethnicity, right? Like, there are certain economic policies that we could do that would help poor black people, that would help poor white people, would help poor Latinos, would help poor Asians, and we should focus on that shit as opposed to the shit where it's like, all right, let's talk about these culture war issues where like Mr. Potato Head is no longer Mr. He's now just Potato Head, and like, I fucking hate that shit, man. I got drafted into the last culture war. I am so sorry. I fucking hate the culture war for real.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing that tying it into like politics, it's just kind of like we want to push forward these policies that like help poor black people, but like the same policies that would help poor white people would more than likely help poor black people. We can talk about the history and where there are specific things that have made it like noticeably more difficult for these these individual groups. However, like if we're talking about let's help the most people, like overall, it's not eating the rich, Leo. But
Eat
but
the
like
rich's booty.
you know, it's saying like, yo, like, because there really is like a lot of there's a lot more classism in the world than there is racism. And I think a lot of times we confuse, especially when we're talking about like gerrymandering and redistricting and redlining and stuff. Like there really is like it's more so like black people came here and they were always poor, so like overall like they're going to be more poor. So like when we're targeting poor people, or at least not caring about poor people, or at least focusing on what would benefit the rich people, like yeah, we will always probably be able to make the case that when we're targeting poor people, like it's there's a target placed on the back of minorities. However, like that doesn't mean that we have to specifically look at the things that make that slow progress down for minorities and only target that, because at the end of the day, this is America, right? So like if we target just the things that make people poorer, like anybody poorer no matter what, like if we target those things, we're going to, as a consequence of that, help poor black people and help poor Latino people and help poor, all of these folks. So again, like I just think race is such a shallow thing, and it has a huge part of our history, and we need to understand that. I'm all for history, but to dwell on it, like you say, you hate the culture war. I'm right there with you. Like to sit here and dwell on it and make every single thing about race, like that's what I'm tired of, man. Like why does every single thing, like every pro-vaccine like fucking ad I get is just kind of like black people are affected more by like COVID-19 than other people, when it's just like, no, people who have less access to healthcare, i.e. poor people, like which includes a lot of white people, are affected very like higher at a higher rate. It doesn't matter. My point is like I'm tired of every single thing that comes up, every single issue that comes up, every single conversation, every single discussion, all of those things. I'm so tired of that always being drawn back to race, and as somebody who like if I identify as black in America, like I'm tired of people telling me what the fuck my black experience should be in America. I'm gonna talk my shit for a second. Like I'm tired. Like don't tell me how I'm supposed to look at being black in America, because because it differs from what you think like it's supposed to look like. And a lot of times this is coming from white people. Like let's just keep it 100. like a lot of times it's coming from white people telling me like, oh, do you think this is okay as a black person in America? Do you really think this is okay? It's just kind of like, I mean, okay. It's just kind of like, I don't know about it. Like, I can talk to people just like the fuck you can talk to people.
Yep.
But to me, like, this is how I see it. So like, don't tell me how I'm supposed to be black in America, because like at the end of the day, it like everybody's experience is different, and I can be open to hearing the anecdotes, kind of like what we were going back earlier and saying like, oh, maybe we should hear these folks out on this particular topic. It's just kind of like, no, don't invalidate your own opinion. Acknowledge that there's a level of ignorance to your opinion, because you don't necessarily have the experience of living that. Right? We talk about lived experience, right?
Yep.
So like you can listen to these people out and hear their lived experience and acknowledge that and add that to your equation, but that doesn't mean that these people who have that lived experience like are the end all be all. Exactly. And you have zero contribution to the conversation. Everybody sees things differently, and my lived experience is I really haven't dealt with that much racism. I've never, this whole thing, I've never said that racism wasn't an issue and that it doesn't exist. But like I acknowledge that there's a level of ignorance to my perspective based off of I am black, I am Latino, but like I haven't experienced a lot of that. You
Yeah.
know, I've been very fortunate, and if you want to call that privilege, sure. Like I acknowledge that. But also like I am like that is my history, that is my culture, and like my perspective on how we exist in America is valid, you
Hmm.
know, and there's a ton of people who exist just like I exist,
Of
you
course.
know. So
For sure. Hey,
yeah.
for sure. Toilet Duck said, not everything boils down to race, and it may permeate into more than it should, but the classism, racism thing is a lot more interlinked than I think you're giving it credit for, Pianoman. I think for sure it's definitely more interlinked. And it, I mean, not everything does boil down to race. I think there's a bigger focus on it, and I think there are places where there should be a focus on it, right? Because like that just counterbalances the lack of years and the lack of time where it wasn't a focus. Because for a long, long time, you didn't see those statistics where it's like, hey, Latino people or minorities are more likely to have, let's say, something like diabetes than white people. And then you have to look into why, the whys for those. But there was a long time where we never focused on that at all. So I think that there is time and place where it should be a focus just because it counterbalances the amount of time that we didn't focus on it. And because all that stuff is important, right? It's important to see, hey, you know, why is it that a minority group or a certain group of a demographic will eat this type of food and they're more likely to have like heart failures or something like that, or diabetes or any type of health complication? Because then you get to the bottom of like, why are they in these conditions? It shouldn't be in everything. There are things where it definitely shouldn't. It shouldn't have any like anything to do with the subject. It's hard to tell, man, with like social media and everybody, like, because people just fucking they you know, just like to complain, and then they find people that also have those same grievances with them, and then you feel like, oh shit, everybody must, like, when something is trending, you all of a sudden are like, hey, it's trending, that must mean that everybody's talking about this. But the reality is a lot of people are not on fucking social media or on Twitter or online. Like, a lot of these people aren't fucking talking about this, so it's not as big of an issue as we think it is. But because we see like, oh, trending, hey, this must be being talked about by everybody, or everybody must have this opinion, where it's like there's definitely more nuance to it and shit. And this has been an amazing conversation, my G. Unfortunately, I do have to get off for work and stuff, but my man, please plug yourself in. We're gonna have a panel next time. We're gonna have we're organizing this shit. I'm saying this shit right now. Grand Piano Man, you definitely have a slot in there. Fucking Toilet Duck, if you want to come up here, you could definitely be up in here. Persona, you could be up in here. Anybody who want to be up in here, we're gonna have in a panel, and we are gonna break that fucking bias of like, hey, let's just be in an echo chamber with people who agree with me or whatever. We gonna be in here with a bunch of motherfuckers that have, you know, different opinions, different ideas, different backgrounds, and we gonna talk about it, and it's gonna be beautiful. That shit gonna look like the Last Supper with fucking just G's up here.
It's been an absolute pleasure, man. You know, real quick, we're not gonna expound on that, but like,
For sure.
like responding to what Duck said, you know, like you know, I will give that racism and how much it affects the monetary gains of up to the extent of excuses, right? Like there is a lack of education in the community as to how to become financially stable and what work ethic it takes and what decisions that need to be made to get there. You know, I hear a lot of times we don't do that white shit, you know, but like sometimes like people who have had the ability to make, you know, generational wealth and all that kind of stuff, perhaps we should kind of look at that blueprint a little bit. Perhaps we should kind of look at that and be like, hey, like, let's preach some of these things and not act like it won't work for us just because we're a different ethnicity than them. And we got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
We got to start somewhere, and we didn't have the 200, 300, 400 years to do it like our Caucasian brethren, but like we got to start somewhere, and we got to start making those decisions. But yes, it's been a pleasure. I hope, you know, again, like, this is all about identity. It all comes back to that. And like, whether you agree with the things that either of us have said, especially me, like at the end of the day, you should believe what you should believe, what you believe, and just be open to other people kind of adding to that equation to make you an even more nuanced and well-rounded individual,
Hey, Nikki asks, Piano Man, am I your Caucasian brother? And there's no way we could leave without you answering this question.
Absolutely, Nikki. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You are forever my Caucasian brother.
Toilet Duck said that you guys have talked about this for a couple hours before. And yeah, these conversations, next time we going to do it all together, Toilet Duck. It's going to be beautiful. And it's going to be different perspectives and different opinions and all different talks and all different talking points. It's going to be beautiful. Everybody, thank you so much. Make some fucking noise for Grand Piano Man for coming on here and fucking being unapologetically him. That's the best part about it. Be unapologetically you, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. This has been such a privilege. It's been such an honor to be here with your community, to watch all the comments and everything. Like it's been very, very fun. I hope everybody enjoyed it, and maybe you got something out of it. It's been a pleasure, Zay. It really has.
Hey, thank you so much, my G. Thank you for being here.